All right, what do we got here? There's been a lot of floods in Texas recently, right? The Guadalupe River, I believe it's called, I think, has been over flooding. And a lot of this is like a byproduct of, well, warning systems being defunded because I believe in some of the cuts that Donald Trump himself said. And I think also DOGE has a slight responsibility in playing in this, has been cuts to the National Weather Services and NOAA, which is the National something meteor. It's like some. NOAA is basically it assesses like air current bullshit, basically, right? NOAA, National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, right? It's like for hurricanes and stuff like that. That's what it is. There we go. There we go. So what, at least 78 dead and dozens missing in Texas flood as more rain looms. Oh boy, more rain. And from what I understand, there's been a big drought in Texas, right? Big drought. The river's overflowing. A lot of extra rain here. It's not good. It's not good. At least 78 people have been confirmed dead in central Texas. Another 41 are missing following flash floods on Friday. 68 of the fatalities, including 28 children, occurred in Kerr County, where a Riverside Christian girls' camp was deluged. 10 girls and a counselor from Camp Mystic are still missing. Oh boy. Well, that ain't good. Officials say the death toll is certain to rise. More storms are expected in the next 24 to 48 hours in the region, which could hamper rescue teams who are already facing venomous snakes as they sift through mud and debris. Well, that's great. Fantastic. But yeah, like, I mean, again, if warning systems, like I've said before, like warning systems like NOAA and National Weather Services, and we're going to get to like a sort of like, bit of a short about this. The problem with like defunding all these services and like willy-nilly just defunding shit for like no reason and other like complete fucking nonsense. The main issue is that you don't have like warning systems, right? Like instead of having like advanced warning ahead of time, and being able to notify people to evacuate from a particular area because of a flood happening, guess what happens? Instead of like people being evacuated and having search teams to find people, then it becomes like a search and rescue operation. This is, I think, the point that Bell the Fifth Column also raises, right? So it goes from having an advanced warning and people being able to evacuate out and get out safely to now, well, now there's going to have to be search and rescue operations done. And also, this is a byproduct of, I believe, also FEMA getting defunded, right? I believe FEMA also just got defunded, and a lot of like their funding just got like sort of deferred to, I think, like DHS or something, right? So yeah, as Texas drowns, Trump's no on FEMA cuts under fire. This is not the time. Great, fantastic. You love to see it. Proposed cuts to NOAA are drawing sharp criticisms in the wake. Oh, it's proposed cuts. Okay, so he hasn't done any cuts yet, but because of they've been proposed, well, they're already seeing some potential effects. That's great, fantastic. Drawing sharp criticism in the wake of devastating floods in Texas that have claimed 52 lives. Damn, it's almost as if a lot of these like random sort of like meteorological sort of like institutions, institutions, the term I'm looking for, get funding for particular reasons. So that's really, really cool. Oh, they've already, yes, you're correct, Alex. Yes, it was a fucking Doge thing. Doge did the cuts. Right. Thank you, Alex. So yeah, that's cool. Great. So whoa, the immediate fucking random shotgunning of random dumb fuck cuts from a bunch of Discord Groiper kittens who had no idea what the fuck they were doing. The immediate consequences of those actions are already being laid out. Great, fantastic. 3 days after the inundation, one of the largest search and rescue efforts in recent Texas history was shifting towards a recovery operation. Yeah, so from search and rescue, it's now all recovery stuff, which means like they've already confirmed it's like, yeah, it's going to be kind of cooked, guys. Of those recovered in Kerr County, 18 adults and 10 children have yet to be formally identified. Texas Governor Greg Abbott said on Sunday that authorities would stop at nothing to ensure every missing person is found. Well, except like defunding all the stuff necessary and defunding FEMA and stuff like that because of like schizo conspiracy theories, but well, whatever. It was nothing short of horrific to see what those young children went through, said Abbott a day after he toured the area. A major focus of the search has been Camp Mystic, a popular summer camp for girls perched on the banks of the Guadalupe River, which suffered significant damage. The catastrophe unfolded before daybreak on Friday after the river rose 26 feet. Jesus Christ. In a span of just 45 minutes while most campers were asleep. Oh, no. And then probably their camps just like got completely washed, like you said, Boy Meets Mini. Yeah, they're not well equipped for inclement weather. Oh, dear. Several young campers and the camp's longtime director, Richard Dick Eastland, are among the dead. Greg Forlick, a former Navy SEAL and volunteer with the rescue group 300 Justice, is helping the effort to find survivors. Speaking to the BBC, he said he had heard of victims being founded up to 8 miles downriver from where Camp Mystic once stood. He said he has seen clothing and items from the camp dressers scattered everywhere, up and down the river. Yeah, a land hurricane that rained constantly for hours. Yeah. Same. It's not like the similar thing that happened with Hurricane Harvey, but it's sort of like these sort of residues of like hurricane going over like it's a thing that fucking happens sometimes with hurricanes, right? Sometimes it'll just make like a bunch of rainstorms all of a sudden just go over parts of Texas, right? It's a thing that happens. And guess what? With global warming, shit like this is only going to get worse. And with the defunding of stuff like NOAA and FEMA, it's going to make like early warning and detection systems significantly worse as well. So that's cool. Great. There's also uncertainty about how many people were camping in the area for the 4th of July weekend and how many have been swept away in the floods. A 2-lane highway that skirts the Guadalupe River and connects to the city of Kerrville to Camp Mystic is a scene of devastation. Ravaged homes are surrounded by falling trees and furniture scattered across lawns. Fences are toppled and utility lines downed in some areas. President Donald Trump signed a major disaster declaration on Sunday for Kerr County, activating FEMA to Texas. He also said he would probably visit the state on Friday. We're working very closely with representatives from Texas, and it's a horrible thing that took place. Absolutely horrible. Yeah, but you defunded quite literally the detection systems. Or, well, your buddy Musk did. So, by proxy, you also did. And he's also talked shit about fucking FEMA as well. Playing into the stupid conspiracy theories that exist. So, that's pretty cool. That's great. On the ground, local residents are stepping up to support relief efforts, collecting supplies, offering shelter, and doing what they can to help neighbors displaced by the storm. Alma Garcia drove in from the city of San Antonio to deliver home-cooked meals to residents and volunteers helping with the cleanup effort. The BBC saw her pull over on the side of the road and take off a top-layer t-shirt to give to a resident. She was all wet. I told her she's going to need it, Ms. Garcia told the BBC. I bet ICE are looking at her being like, Sir, we need to deport her. Her last name is Garcia, therefore she must be deported. Local resident Perla started collecting clothes and shoes on Friday after she finished her shift at Walmart. She dropped them off at a shelter the next morning. I've never seen anything like this before. Meanwhile, wishes poured in from around the world. In Rome, Pope Leo XIV offered special prayers on Sunday for the bereaved in Texas. I would like to express sincere condolences to all the families who have lost loved ones, in particular their daughters who were in a summer camp in the disaster caused by the flooding of the Guadalupe River in Texas in the United States, the pontiff said. We pray for them. Very, very cool. Well, anywho, let's talk about the cuts to NOAA. So, we got a short here. Shout out to Alex. Very, very cool. Community member Alex, you're doing a great service to the Daharumba Emporium and Empire, folks. Let me tell you, great service from Alex as always.
As you've grown accustomed to my presentations over my 34 years in South Florida newscasts, confidently, I went on TV and I told you it's going to turn. Mm-hmm. You don't need to worry. It is going to turn.
The hurricane.
And I am here to tell you that I am not sure I can do that this year, because of the gutting, the sledgehammer attack on science in general, and I could talk about that for a long time.
Yeah, then there's plenty of fucking videos. There's a really good Adam Conover video about the sort of broader conservative attack against science. Quite literally, the thing that made the U.S. a superpower throughout the Cold War was their significant investment into science. And also the kidnapping of the Nazi scientists from Operation Paperclip. But, you know... Tomato, tomato, potato, potato. Hey, don't worry about it. This is what led to the fact that the U.S. became such a strong goddamn fucking superpower. This significant investment throughout the entirety of the Cold War in science. Now, a lot of it was, of course, for militaristic purposes and also competition purposes as well with the Soviet Union. That's a whole fucking shebang, shabong, whatever. This is what happens. And then this broader attack, because conservatives do not believe in the fundamental aspects of curiosity, reflective learning, and being, well, curious. They are fundamentally incurious people. They are conspiratorial and will throw doubt into the wind in terms of like whatever constantly. This is stuff that happens. Disasters that could have been evacuated, could have been fucking prepared for, are now going to be search and rescue operations, and, well, are going to have to be a cleanup operation and discovery of the fucking dead at this point because of this broader attack and incuriosity that conservatives have. Death of subjectivity. Death of subjectivity has a huge role to play in this.
And how that is affecting the U.S. Leadership in science over many years, and how we're losing that leadership, and this is a multi-generational impact on science in this country, all right? But specifically, let's talk about the federal government cuts to the National Weather Service and to NOAA. Did you know that Central and South Florida National Weather Service offices are currently basically 20 to 40% understaffed? From Tampa to Key West, including the Miami office, 20 to 40% understaffed.
I feel like for Florida in particular, this may be a very important region to have staffed, considering the impact that hurricanes seem to constantly have on the state. Just throwing that out there.
Now, this type of staffing shortage is having impacts across the nation because there's been a nearly 20% reduction in weather balloon launches that carry those radiosondes. And what we're starting to see is that the quality of the forecasts is becoming degraded. There's also a chance, because of some of these cuts, that NOAA Hurricane Hunter aircraft will not be able to fly this year, and with less...
That is a fucking potential disaster. This is going to lead to people fucking dying. Listen, yeah, I don't know why we're launching balloons. I don't know. It seems like we're just playing chill. Listen, we don't know what are in those balloons, folks. It could be Chicom software. It could be, like, people spying on us. Let me tell you, folks, those weather balloons, they're scary, folks. They're real scary. I don't trust them, folks. Let me tell you. By the way, this is, like, how people get killed. People not being able to do proper reconnaissance missions and stuff like that. This is how people get killed. This is how people die. If NOAA and other weather scouting services are not able to sort of like do this stuff. But it's okay. Some, I don't know, bumblefuck, dumbass, rural, lumped proletariat voter in Appalachia or fucking Iowa can, I don't know, save like 3 cents maybe on their fucking corn supply. Maybe, probably not. We'll have to pay like $5 extra in terms of like tariffs or some shit. It's the stupidest shit on the fucking planet is basically what I'm saying.
Reconnaissance missions, we may be flying blind, and we may not exactly know how strong a hurricane is before it reaches the coastline, like happened a couple of years ago in Hurricane Otis in Acapulco, Mexico. So I was asked to talk about this today. I'm glad I was. I just want you to know that what you need to do is call your representatives and make sure that these cuts are stopped.
I'm sorry, Mr. Meteorological Weatherman. Unfortunately, because Elon Musk's a 3 IQ moron, and his Discord groiper kittens are sycophants and also fucking morons, the cuts have already happened. And the consequences are already playing out. But let's see, what do we got here? Further sort of like reading into this. National Weather Service defends its flood warnings amid fresh scrutiny of Trump's staff cuts. Experts said warnings issued in the run-up to this weekend's flooding were as timely and accurate as possible, but questions about about whether the alerts reach people most at risk remain. Fatal floods in Texas left thousands scrambling for safety with little warning have sparked a fresh round of scrutiny of Trump administration cuts to the National Weather Service. At least 79 people were dead and many others were missing Sunday evening after floodwaters surged through Texas Hill Country, an area known as Flash Flood Alley. I wonder why it might be being called that. Because it's very prone to droughts and because of residual sort of like not rain residue. I'm not sure what exactly the correct meteorological term is, but the sort of like remains of like hurricanes that fly over these like very sort of like flat areas. It's really easy for those rivers that are nearby to flood and cause, well, disasters like this, which can be very easily prevented with early detection and warning systems. But guess what? Because of the defunding of the National Weather Service and NOAA, well, you don't get those warnings, so people don't fucking evacuate. Well, and then people die as a result. Very, very cool. Discord Groiper kittens already causing the deaths of about 80 people. Very, very cool. Within hours of the deluge early Friday, some Texas officials were critical of the NWS. Are you actually It got fucking defunded. What do you mean? Saying forecasts underestimated the rainfall because they don't have the funding in order to be able to do proper measurements. Sunday, President Donald Trump rejected the idea of investigating whether NWS cuts had left vacancies. I wonder why. And the White House said claims that NWS cuts had anything to do with the tragedy were disgusting. Yeah, because again, they don't want to be held accountable for any of their fucking actions. Because again, they don't give a fuck if people die. Like, conservatives have never cared if people fucking die. Let's be honest here. Independent meteorologists and a former NWS official said warnings issued in the run-up to the flooding were as timely and accurate as could be expected with the weather data available in real time. Predicting extreme rain and flash flooding beyond several hours is challenging, they said, and it is not easy to ensure urgent warnings reach those most at risk. Damn, it's almost as if, probably defunding them and understaffing these fucking goddamn positions might make this harder to have more accurate sort of tells on potential natural disasters. The forecasting was good. The warnings were good. It's always about getting people to receive the message, to Chris Vagaski, a meteorologist based in Wisconsin. It appears that is one of the biggest contributors, that last mile. The meteorologists said they did not think understaffed offices were a primary factor in the tragic outcome, even though the NWS has leadership gaps after a rash of staffing cuts. Really? That is interesting that it's not understaffed offices. I wonder what they think the primary factor is then. Tom Fahey, whatever, the legislative director of the National Weather Service Employees Organization, a union that represents government employees, said the San Antonio Weather Forecasting Office did not have two of its top positions filled: a permanent science officer, a role that conducts training and is in charge of implementing new technology, or a warning coordination meteorologist who coordinates with the media and it's the public face of the office. Right, so in order to be able to give out proper warnings to like local news affiliates and stations, so then they can say there's inclement weather potentially coming on this day, be sure to evacuate or be fucking wary. Really, it's not fucking staffing cuts the meteorologists are saying? That is interesting. Oh, I guess what they mean by that is like, well, in terms of our work, that's not the main problem. The issue is that we're missing heads and certain people and, well, positions of power, heads of these particular offices and institutions in order to be able to give proper warning to people. That is the main fucking problem, which is a direct byproduct of the fucking cuts of NOAA and NWS. You had to hide into playing this, Trump. Very, very cool. Though there are employees acting in those leadership roles. Overall, since if there are employees acting in those leadership roles, that means they're probably not going to be as effective as those people who were formerly in those roles who got fucking cut, right? Because they probably don't have the exact same training, which is going to cause problems and potential inaccuracies, right? Potentially things coming in late because they don't know necessarily the processes because they've just been, well, foisted upon a particular position that they probably did not have enough time or training in order to have necessarily. Overall, Fahey said the office had enough meteorologists to respond to the event. The WFO's weather forecast, so they had the people. The problem is that they were people who were probably not trained for these particular positions. So as a result, well, not as good or accurate sort of takes, or data may have been presented in a particular way. That's the main issue here. The WFO's weather forecasting offices had adequate staffing and resources as they issued timely forecasts and warnings leading up to the storm, Fahey said Saturday, but he added that he was concerned about the unfilled senior positions and vacuums of leadership. In a statement, the NWS said it was heartbroken by the tragic loss of life in Kerr County. It did not address questions about staffing, but provided a detailed timeline of the warnings it sent out. It's also possible that they may not be trying to talk too much about the understaffing problems because they could be potentially aware of how vindictive and spiteful Trump is, right? Saying like, dude, if the White House didn't cut a bunch of our fucking positions, this probably would have not been a problem. I think that is probably the bigger factor for as to why they're not talking about potential, well, staffing shortages and issues that they might be having. Because I still think that is, broadly speaking, more than likely the big issue. They just know that Trump is a complete fucking child, and if you don't daughter and coddle him, he'll lash out and throw a fucking temper tantrum and potentially cut further funding for the NWS and the NOAA. Some Texas officials have suggested the National Weather Center forecast did not convey the storm's threats, while others said they were grateful for timely alerts from the agency. Yeah, even the Republicans probably don't know who to blame exactly. The original forecast that we received on Wednesday from the National Weather Service predicted 3 to 6 inches of rain in the Concho Valley and 4 to 8 inches of rain in the Hill County. Texas Emergency Management Chief W. Nim Kidd said at a news conference Friday. The amount of rain that fell in this specific location was never in any of those forecasts, nevertheless. It's also possible, like, freak weather events could have happened, right? Like, those are, like, generally speaking, also very, very difficult to predict, as was also mentioned before, which is, like, a broadly speaking, like, agreeable position. But again, those funding cuts more than likely did not really help whatsoever. The National Weather Center indicated Kerrville, Texas, and its surrounding areas could be at risk of flash flooding for Thursday. And then there's a problem of like people also believing this because it comes from on high bullshit like that as well. According to the National Weather Service timeline, then NWS Austin/San Antonio issued a flood watch on at 1:18 p.m. Thursday into Friday morning. It issued its urgent flash flood warnings for Kerr County at 1:14 a.m. Andy Brown, the Travis County judge or chief executive, thanked the NWS for its alerts. Eric Carter, the county's chief emergency management coordinator, described the Weather Service as being very proactive in their warnings. The agency noted that it sent out a flash flood warning with tags of considerable or catastrophic at 1:14 a.m. CT Friday, which would trigger wireless emergency alerts on enabled mobile devices. Yeah, but no one fucking ever listens to like Amber Alerts. Let's be fucking honest here. Unless they're like in the local area, but you know what I mean. Flash flood warnings were issued on the night of July 3rd and in the early morning of July 4th, giving preliminary lead times of more than 3 hours, the statement said. The Trump administration this spring laid off NWS employees and also offered buyouts and early retirements. By early June, the Weather Service had lost about 600 employees. Many veteran workers left, along with employees on probation and those recently hired or promoted. Some of NWS offices have experienced staffing reductions of more than 40%, and the agency has scrambled to fill critical roles at some forecasting offices. At least 8 offices stopped operating 24 hours a day this spring as a result. Yeah, I feel like that might be a problem given the fact that weather phenomenon can change on a fucking dime, which is why you need them to operate at 24/7 capacity at all fucking times, because again, when it comes to the weather, random shit can just fucking happen sometimes, especially when it comes to like disasters like this. Something random can just happen. And some have suspended weather balloon launches. In May, more than 40% of the country's weather forecasting offices had staffing vacancy rates above 20%. The cuts promoted all of the living former directors of the NWS to write a letter expressing concern over staffing levels and future budget cuts. Again, because, like I said before, more than likely they are significantly afraid of Trump being spiteful. Because if you spite Trump, well, he's more than likely going to go after you politically. He would try to cut more funding. Our worst nightmare is that weather forecast offices will be so understaffed that there will be a needless loss of life. We know that there's a nightmare. We know that a nightmare is shared by those on the forecasting front lines, and by the people who depend on their efforts. They wrote, tornadic storms can spring up within an hour given the right atmospheric conditions. Yeah, exactly. And if you defund the necessary institutions that are, well, studying these atmospheric fucking goddamn conditions, well, it's going to have a problem in terms of like warning times, and it's going to cause like potential damages there. Needless loss of life as being said here. Compared with many forecasting offices across the country, the Texas offices remain relatively well staffed. Oh. Probably because it's Republican and, Trump making exemptions. Who wants to make a bet that there were fucking exemptions made? Any exemptions made? Faye, I don't know how to say this name, said the San Antonio/Austin Weather Forecasting Office is operating with 11 staff meteorologists and is down 6 employees from its typical full staffing level of 26. He also said, 11 staff meteorologists and is down 6 employees. Oh, so it's at 20 employees? Okay. He also said that the nearby San Angelo office, which issues warnings for parts of central Texas, is short 4 staff members from its usual staffing level of 23. This still can cause problems in inefficiencies, like quite literally, even though they're saying, it's adequate. But again, we don't necessarily know if these guys are saying that to make sure that they're not attracting the ire of Trump, right? That's entirely possible. The meteorologist in charge position and office of top leadership's position is not permanently filled. The office is also without a senior hydrologist. In San Angelo, there is no hydrologist, and that's a problem, Fahey said. Hydrologists analyze stream flow and play a key role in flood response. Well, that seems like a potential issue. A Kerrville city manager, Dalton Rice, said the city will look at whether its own emergency notifications are robust enough to warn residents. We know questions are being asked about the emergency notification, and while it is not the time to speculate, local and regional partners are committed to a full review of the events and systems in place, Rice said at a news conference Sunday. At the appropriate time, we will take clear steps to strengthen our future preparedness. We owe that commitment to the families who are suffering and every member of our community. Prominent independent meteorologists who have been critical of NWS and staffing and budget cuts in the past have said federal meteorologists on the ground issued timely warnings. Alan Gerard, the former director of the Analysis and Understanding branch at the National Severe Storms Laboratory of the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, wrote in a blog post that the Austin/San Antonio Forecasting Office did a good job communicating the risk as quickly as possible, despite the underfilled leadership positions. So, yeah. They fucking decide they were able to step up despite the fucking staffing shortages. Well, that's just making things more efficient. No, not really, right? This wouldn't be as potentially big of a fucking goddamn problem if they were staffed properly, right? If they're staffed properly, they wouldn't have to randomly elevate people who are not well trained into those positions. Not necessarily not qualified, right? They could be qualified for those positions, but given the cuts of the senior people who are supposed to train these people, well, the fact that they got cut is a fucking problem. Because again, now that those people are not there in order to train those people, well, how are they going to be able to do an effective job in terms of warning systems and figuring out, well, if there are inclement weather effects that may be a potential disaster? Obviously, having both these positions vacant for a prolonged time is not optimal and certainly could have negative impacts at some level, Gerard wrote. However, just looking at the actual warning services that NWS provided during the event, they were solid and provided the level of warning and alerts that the public should expect to receive for an event such as this. Matt Lanza, a Houston-based meteorologist, said there were no initial indications that staffing levels or budget cuts played a role in the tragedy. Right. So again, it could be because of the fact that this was like so particularly aggressive. Could have been just a complete random change. They did everything that they could. But again, could be a big fucking problem in the future for things that are more easier to say. As this fucking dude particularly said, this weather report man, this meteorologist over here was saying like, yeah, like it may not be an issue now, but eventually like it will be a problem. If they're not able to do their reconnaissance flights into like inclement weather, like people are going to die. More than likely. So for now, it could have been potentially fine at the time being. However, and what I possibly do think is that a lot of people aren't necessarily going to report into like the severity of the staffing shortages because again, they know that Trump is incredibly vindictive, and if you go against him, well, he may cut further. Vygotsky, the Wisconsin meteorologist, said predicting flash flooding and extreme rain is notoriously difficult. Quantitative precipitation forecasting, called QPF, is one of the hardest things meteorologists have to do. You have to get the right location, the right amount, and the right timing, he said. They were aware this was a significant event, and they were messaging that. Right, because it's very, very difficult to fucking speculate on that stuff. Makes sense. Vygotsky said the remnants of Tropical Storm Barry moved into Texas and fed tropical moisture to severe thunderstorms, which stalled out over central Texas and pummeled the region with extreme precipitation. He added that the cadence by which forecasters indicated increasing concern fit with what weather models were showing and what he would expect. The Texas Hill Country is often called Flash Flood Alley because its topography can funnel and quickly swell rivers. Knowing precisely where the rain will fall is key for hydrological models to understand where flood impacts could be worse. Oh, and what do they not have right now? A hydrologist. Uh-oh. The forecast this week were for 4 to 7, 5 to 9 inches of rain, somewhere in there. And some models were showing higher amounts of that. Knowing is that higher amount going to fall 3 miles this way or 3 miles that way has a huge impact on what the ultimate results are, Vygotsky said. Unfortunately, the science just isn't at the point where you can say, okay, I know at this specific latitude and longitude, we're going to get this much rain. Right, because again, random shit can just all of a sudden happen. The overnight timing of the heaviest rain and the floodwaters began to rise is a nightmare scenario for forecasters, Vygotsky said. Several weather response in the middle of the night is one of the biggest challenges. That's when we see the most tornado fatalities and the most flooding fatalities. People are asleep. They can't see the tornado or water rising, he said. Did people have their emergencies alerts turned on their phones? Vygotsky, who has criticized staffing reductions and cuts the weather balloon releases at the NWS, said he did not think better staffing would have prevented the tragedy. Right, because, again, a lot of these warnings went out in the night. More than likely, people were asleep, and then they got caught out because of it, and as a result, more than likely got washed up somewhere or got killed as a result. Those are important positions that do need to be filled, he said, but he added that it probably wasn't a significant contributor to what happened. Vygotsky said there is plenty of room to improve quantitative precipitation forecasting that could help forecasters identify threats earlier. Such research is at the risk if the administration cuts NOAA's funding as it has outlined, he said. But it's already been cut because of DOGE, right? Like, the staffing already has been cut. The funding has already been cut because of the efforts of DOGE. Probably because, I don't know, like Elon Musk wants to not get sued by them because they hit their like weather balloons with like fucking random ass rockets that explode or some shit. The biggest concern is the latest budget request. If it goes through Congress the way the administration wants, it shuts down all NOAA research labs, which are the labs doing the work to improve that forecasting. What's the latest budget request? Is that in the big beautiful bill? I don't think so, right? The dissolution of the Office of Oceanic and Atmospheric Research accounts for a large chunk of the $2.2 billion in suggested cuts. Nice. That's cool. So people are going to suffer because of this? Fantastic. Very good. Well, as we all know, death cult, as always, expected of Donald Trump and the Republicans. Due to their significant anti-science stances, they are okay with like people suffering and dying as a result. Like, so partially, yes, it could be said that like maybe there were like some potential problems with the funding cuts. Now, a lot of the meteorologists in particular are saying that it's not the main reason. However, the main issue is it may not have been an issue now, but eventually, given a long enough time, it will become an issue, right? The problem is, of course, is the fact that these cuts are being pushed and proposed to begin with. It's simply due to the fact that Donald Trump is, well, and the Republican Party. This isn't just a Trump thing. It is also the Republican Party stand against and are against science. Quite literally speaking, right? Being anti-science kills people, quite literally. And as a result, 78 people fucking died because of a lot of the anti-science stances, right? And cuts to the NWS and the NOAA are not going to make this any better. It's going to exacerbate the issue and make it worse. Like, literally, this guy is talking about in Central and South Florida that there's going to be, due to the understaffing that's going on because of the federal budget cuts, like reconnaissance planes for like hurricanes and stuff like that. I feel like in Florida that might be particularly important. And it's going to lead, as has been said before, a needless loss of life. But then again, do these, like, I don't know, evangelical, like, loons and stuff like that, do they care about any of that stuff? No, they're okay with that because it's perfectly in line with their sort of, like, rapturous goals and wanting to ascend to, I don't know, heaven or whatever, like, idiotic, like, religious conspiracism that these people believe in or something. Like, we know that they believe that climate change is, like, the sort of first step of the rapture. And, like, being climate change deniers leads to people dying. Needless loss of life, quite literally. And it's just sad this has to be the fucking case. But, you know, as expected from the conservatives, people who don't, you know, fundamentally believe in, like, subjective thinking and do not believe in the sort of, like, fitting in one other person's shoes, they don't really care about this. And they're perfectly fine with other people suffering. Well, so long as they are the main ones who get to, well, reap the overall benefits of the people that are suffering. You know, death of subjectivity and all that. Because these are the people are just going to needlessly suffer. Personally, I'm in the position, in the camp of, I don't think people should suffer because of random staffing cuts to meteorological and disaster relief, simply due to the express purposes of, like, I don't know, like, possible idiotic fucking conspiracism that Donald Trump is trying to coddle to politically. Personally, I think it is rather abhorrent that could possibly be the case for as to why, well, people might be dying needlessly.